Hello, I'm Christine Shizzle, Member and Visitor Services Associate and Docent.
And I'm Margie Burr, Director of Education at the Dubuque Museum of Art. Welcome to a conversation about art we call More Than Meets the Eye, the story behind the work with Christine and Margie. On this episode, we are going to talk about a beloved member of the Dubuque Museum of Art family of artists, Arthur Geisert. Christine, shall we begin where art began?
Yeah, that sounds great. Art was born in Los Angeles, but moved to Dallas as a child. As a child, he wanted to be an artist, a cowboy, or a mountain climber. Lucky for all of his fans, he became an artist.
Oh, indeed. At college, Art studied sculpture and printmaking, which he considers a kind of sculpture. He liked printmaking better. He received his Bachelor of Science degree from Concordia University in Nebraska and a Master of Arts degree from the University of California, Davis. Art and his family moved to Galena, Illinois in the early 1970s.
In Galena, they lived in an elaborate three-story home and a studio that they built themselves, located in a defunct rock quarry.
Now, Art's head was filled with story ideas, but it took 10 years of contacting publishers before he became a full-time author and illustrator in the early 1980s. Since that time, he has published over 30 books filled with his whimsical etchings and tall tales.
Art's fantastical but familiar stories are beloved by children and adults alike. They've won numerous awards and have been translated into many languages, including French, German, Spanish, and Japanese.
Art has even had 5 cartoons published in the New Yorker magazine, but that is a real distinction.
Absolutely. And the Dubuque Museum of Art's very fortunate to have the complete collection of Art's works, which include prints, books, and etching plates, thanks to the generosity of Jack and Mantia Schmid family. It is truly a treasure for the museum and the Dubuque community.
Now, Art is known for making his studio and home in quirky, repurposed spaces that he customizes.
Yeah, and in 2006, Art purchased an old bank in Bernard, Iowa, and converted it into a small but efficient studio and home. His sleeping quarters were in the bank vault.
Now, 7 years ago, Art decided to move again. He searched for a small town where one could reach all of the services by walking. He landed in Elkader, Iowa, where he made a studio in a former dry cleaners building on the bank of the Turkey River.
Okay, Margie, let's talk about Art's creative process and specifically his work as an etcher.
Sounds good. Now, Art's books are described as picture books because they tell a story using few or no words. That encourages the reader to use their imagination to help tell the story along with Art.
So, where does Art get his inspiration, Margie?
Well, Christine, like many artists, Art draws inspiration from the world around him. On his daily strolls on the main streets of Elkader, he notices details most of us would probably pass by.
You could say that Art turns the ordinary into the extraordinary.
Exactly, and always with his signature captivating detail and wry humor.
Art, is as unique as a children's book illustrator in his use of etching.
Now, Christine, etching is a way of making a print that has been around for 500 years. It was favored by artists in the 17th century. And you may have heard of one of those artists yourself, the great Rembrandt.
Etching involves many detailed and time-consuming steps. Margie, could you just explain for a moment to someone like me who's not familiar with the process?
Oh, sure, I'll give it a try. Well, the etching process begins with 3 steps: creating a drawing, making a tracing of the drawing, and transferring the tracing to a prepared copper plate. The plate is then placed into acid. The acid cuts into the unprotected parts of the surface, to create a design in the plate. Then a print is made by rolling an ink plate or ink pad across the surface. The ink sinks into the cut surface and rolls off the wax surface of the plate. The metal plate is then pressed into the paper, and voila, the finished product is an etching. Now the plate is run through the press several times to create preparatory prints until the final print is achieved.
Oh, but wait, there's more.
There is. Once Art has a complete set of his final etchings, his work is only halfway done. Before the new etchings go to the publisher to be reproduced for the books, he spends months hand coloring each of them.
Oh, I just can't imagine the time he takes. And Art's most recent books are a trilogy, which means there's a series of 3.
The first book in the trilogy, Pumpkin Island, is set in Geisert's hometown of Alcater. Imagine your town brought to a standstill by a profusion of pumpkins.
Yes, and then his latest book, the second in the series, is called How the Big Bad Wolf Got His Comeuppance. It's a new interpretation of the Three Little Pigs tale, and it's set in Clayton County, where Art lives. Okay, spoiler alert, those clever and crafty pigs outsmart the wolf yet once again. Art's inventive etchings are paired with the story written by Lisa Wilk Pope, the director of the Alcater Public Library.
In fact, The Big Bad Wolf is her debut effort, and I think her sense of humor matches Art's very well indeed.
Right. Okay, and what's next? Well, trolls who live under the stone bridges on the Turkey River are the subject of his third book. I'm sure they will be as mischievous as all of Art's characters.
Of course, they would have to be. Now, we can't end this conversation without an invitation. The Dubuque Museum of Art is having a special 80th birthday celebration for Art on Saturday, September 18th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Ooh, tell me more, Margie.
Well, admission to the museum that day will include art activities, music, and food. And you'll get to see the original etchings from How the Big Bad Wolf Got His Comeuppance.
And of course, the birthday boy will be on hand to sign copies of his book.
Please join us for a fun-filled day to honor this wonderfully talented artist and Dubuque Museum of Art treasure, Mr. Art Geisert.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
We hope to see you on September 18th.